All right, let's talk about something that's, well, it's kind of the secret sauce of a fair election. It's a process that is absolutely vital, but one that most of us have probably never even heard of. Today, we're going to unpack something called EVM randomization. You can really think of it as the unseen guardian of your vote. So think about this for a second. In a massive election, you have thousands, literally thousands of polling booths. And for each of those, you have a voting machine. So here's the big question. How on earth do you make sure that nobody, not an official, not a politician, nobody can predict or worse, influence which specific machine goes to which specific booth? It's a huge puzzle, right? And solving it is absolutely key to stopping any kind of targeted funny business. And the solution to that puzzle has a name: randomization. Now, this isn't about creating chaos. It's actually a very deliberate, systematic process. The whole point is to completely destroy any sense of predictability. And by doing that, you're essentially building a fortress of fairness around the entire election. The easiest way to think about this is like a lottery draw. A predictable system, that's like a rigged game where someone already knows the winning numbers. It's completely vulnerable. But a randomized system? Well, that's like a proper, sealed, public lottery draw. Nobody knows the outcome ahead of time. And because of that, it prevents any manipulation, and just as importantly, it builds trust. That randomness, that is the security feature. Okay, before we dive deeper, let's just make sure we're all on the same page with the lingo. The EVM, the electronic voting machine, isn't just one thing. It's got two main parts: the control unit, or CU, which the polling officer handles, and the ballot unit, the BU, which is the part you actually press to cast your vote. And then there's the VVPAT. This thing is so important. It prints out a little paper slip that you can see, confirming your vote was recorded correctly. It's that physical proof, that paper trail, that adds a whole other layer of trust. So that's the theory, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, let's zoom in on our case study from an election in Bihar to see how this whole thing is put into action. So the process has four main stages. It all kicks off with something called first level checking, or FLC. That's just a fancy way of saying they check every single machine to make sure it's working perfectly. Then, and only then, does the first randomization happen, and it's all done with specialized software. And here's the key. It's not done in secret. The lists are shared right away with political parties for transparency before everything gets locked up tight in secure strong rooms. And this really is the most important part: transparency. This isn't some shady process happening behind closed doors. As our source material points out, representatives from the political parties are right there in the room, watching the whole thing happen. It's a system built on showing everyone that the process is fair, not just telling them. And we're not talking about people pulling numbers out of a hat here. The entire randomization is managed by a dedicated piece of software, the EVM management system. This is super important because it makes sure the process is totally random, systematic, and leaves a digital trail that can always be checked later. Now, to really get why this whole complicated process is so necessary, you have to appreciate the sheer scale we're talking about. Let's look at the numbers from just this one phase in Bihar. You'll see pretty quickly why doing this by hand just wouldn't work. So get this, just for this single phase, we're dealing with more than 45,000 polling stations. 45,000! And to service all of those, the system had to randomly assign almost 54,000 ballot units. You know, the actual machines you press the button on. And of course, for every one of those, you need a matching control unit, so that's another 54,000 of those, all randomized. And then, on top of all of that, you have almost 58,000 VVPAT machines to provide that crucial paper trail. The numbers are just staggering, right? And that's exactly why you need a powerful, automated, and transparent system to manage it all. So let's just quickly run through those layers of transparency again, because it really is a system of checks and balances. First, the lists are shared with the parties. Then, the machines are locked up in guarded strong rooms. Party reps are there to watch the rooms get sealed. And later on, the final lists are even shared with every single candidate in the race. There's a safeguard at every single step. Okay, so we've covered the what and the how, but now for the big question, why? Why go to all this trouble? Well, because this isn't just some boring bureaucratic step. It's truly one of the bedrocks of a democracy. When you boil it all down, it comes to this. Randomization makes sure that each and every machine is anonymous. If nobody can predict which EVM is going to end up where, then nobody can target a specific machine to try and tamper with it. It basically cuts off the opportunity for any foul play before it even has a chance to start. And the impact of that is just massive. This one process completely flips the script. It takes the potential for bias, which could be a real problem, and pushes it way, way down. And what goes up instead? Voter confidence and the integrity of the whole system. It's a pretty simple procedure, but it has a huge democratic payoff. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If this one single process, something most of us never even see or hear about, can be so powerful in protecting an election, well, it makes you wonder, what other hidden mechanics are out there, working quietly behind the scenes to make sure your vote is safe? And that's definitely something worth thinking about.